Welcome to the show. I am James Swanwick. I was just interviewed on another podcast to do with living an alcohol-free life. It's called the Last Drinks Podcast, and the host is a fellow Australian by the name of Will Hitchins. He's a 32-year-old Australian who I met earlier this year on the Gold Coast, on the east coast of Australia. And Will describes himself as being in recovery for the last 5 years. He went to rehab, and we talk a little bit in this upcoming conversation about how he chooses to use the word sober and recovery, and how I choose to use the phrase alcohol-free. And a little bit different in this upcoming conversation because Will is interviewing me as opposed to me interviewing someone else. But I do encourage you to go and listen and support Will and his podcast, which is called the Last Drinks Podcast. You can find that in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And so here we go. Here is me being interviewed about my alcohol-free journey from drinking James back before 2010 and non-drinking James post-2010. So let's roll this interview with Will Hitchins from the Last Drinks Podcast.
Welcome to the Last Drinks Podcast. I'm your host, Will Hitchins. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, investor, speaker, and health and wellness coach. He started his career in journalism, working for various publications, including the Courier Mail here in Australia, Sky Sports in the UK, before making his way to the USA, where he mixed it up with the glitz and glam as a Hollywood entertainment correspondent. He also had a gig as an anchor on the popular American sports panel show on ESPN SportsCenter. But not only that, he is the creator of quit drinking programs, 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge and Project 90. He is the creator of blue light blocking glasses Swannies, and he's the host of the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast, where he helps high performers feel and perform better by reducing or quitting alcohol. Please welcome to the podcast, James Swanwick.
Will, thank you very much for having me.
It's not a problem. It was good to finally link up and do this, as you are now a traveling man, traveling around the world, it seems.
Yeah, you and I met on the Gold Coast in Australia. I'm now in Bogota, Colombia at the moment as we're recording this. So yeah, I'm traveling around the US and Colombia on some business.
Yeah, I was actually, before we start, you posted a clip, one of your old clips the other day on social media. And it reminded me, I think it was years ago when I was back drinking heavily and sort of, looking for any sort of relief to get out. And what I used to do was I would go into YouTube and then look up sort of sobriety stories. It was mostly sort of celebrity stuff. It was, I don't know, some weird way of me living vicariously through people who, had sort of gotten out of the mess of it. And one of those actors, I think it was Bradley Cooper's, because Bradley Cooper's famously quit drinking alcohol. And I believe your clip came up where you were walking down, I believe it was down in Hollywood, talking about, you interviewed him and you were surprised to find out he didn't drink alcohol, especially because he was promoting the movie The Hangover.
That's right. Yeah, it was about 2008, I think it was. I used to be a Hollywood celebrity journalist, so I would interview movie stars and directors and producers on TV shows and for magazines and newspapers around the world. And yeah, I went to the SLS Hotel in Beverly Hills to do the Hangover Junket. That was obviously the very famous comedy movie in I think it was 2008. And yeah, I went into a suite and I interviewed Bradley Cooper. And one of the questions I asked him was, "What's your favorite drink?" And he said, "I don't drink." And I went, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, I don't drink." And I remember thinking to myself at the time, because I was drinking at the time, I remember thinking, God, this isn't someone I'd want to hang out with. Yeah, it's how times have changed. Fast forward to today, I'm like, I totally admire and respect his choice not to drink. I haven't drunk since 2010 myself, but it's just so funny because, in that phase of my life when I was drinking, I just thought drinking was great and amazing and wonderful and everyone did it. And if you chose not to do it, there must be something wrong with you. You must be an alcoholic. You must, must be a killjoy. So I'm judging Bradley Cooper, who's now, I think, been nominated for 6 Oscars. I think it's something crazy, 6 or even 7. He, he's one of the most desired men in the world by women. One of the most, men want to be him. And, by all accounts, his whole life has transformed because of the choice that he made to be alcohol free. So who's laughing now, I guess?
Yeah. It's like you said, it's funny how times changed, and I can certainly resonate with the sentiment of when you'd hear of people who didn't drink. It was when I was a drinker, it's just like, oh, well, get away from me. I don't want to. What? You're no fun.
Yeah.
So I guess we can go into, let's go into pre-2010 James, who, as I sort of mentioned in the intro, which a lot of that intro, we'll point out to the viewers, this is the first guest we have who's got his own Wikipedia page. I don't know if all of it's accurate. I had to sort of double check with a few things, but that's a very pristine accolade, getting a Wikipedia page for yourself. I don't know if you've actually read it yourself. But
I've seen it on occasion. Yeah, it showed up one day some years ago, and I read it and I went, "Oh yeah, that seems pretty accurate." I don't know what it's. I haven't seen it recently. Why? Is there something scandalous there? I better take a look at it now.
Oh, there's no sort of controversial sort of panel or of controversy. No, I think it's all very cut and dry. But yeah. So we could go into your sort of pre sort of 2010 when James was a drinking man. Let's go and let's go down a trip down memory lane, and can you just sort of describe what your drinking, escapades were like then?
Yeah, well, look, I grew up in Brisbane on the east coast of Australia, and I was a socially acceptable drinker in that I would have a couple of drinks most nights of the week, and on the weekend I would drink considerably more. When I left high school, I got a job right out of high school as a reporter at the Courier Mail newspaper, which is the main newspaper in Queensland. And big drinking culture then, which was the early to mid 90s. And every Friday night we'd go down to the Jubilee Tavern called the Jube, and everyone would drink excessively, and I would get drunk and have a fabulous time, but ultimately wake up feeling like crap the next day. And then on Saturday night, I'd go to a place called the Caxton Street Hotel on Caxton Street in Brisbane, and I'd get drunk and wake up on a Sunday and then maybe go to the Royal Exchange, the RE pub on the other side of Brisbane, and drink on a Sunday. And then I would show up at work on a Monday. It was that was my kind of like my 20s, candidly. I didn't think there was anything amiss with that. I didn't think there was anything wrong. And then I moved over to the US and I joined the Los Angeles rugby team about 20 years ago in 2002. And if I was quote unquote lucky enough to win the man of the match on a Saturday, the reward for that was to have to scull a big pitcher of beer, of Budweiser beer, with my teammates going skull, 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 or chug, chug, chug. And so I went right back, right into, again, that very heavy drinking culture. I didn't get arrested. I didn't wake up in a ditch. I didn't do anything scandalous, really, but I was just a consistent drinker. And I got to my mid-30s. I was 35 years old. I was in Austin, Texas, at an annual festival there called the South by Southwest Festival. I went to an industry party. I had 2 Bombay Sapphire gin and tonics. I went to bed in my hotel, and I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I just felt and looked average. It wasn't that I was rock bottom. It was just I'd put on about 25, 30 pounds, which is about, maybe 12 kilos, 13 kilos. I had a lot of visceral fat. I was weathered. My skin was dry. I was just blah. I wasn't like a 3 out of 10, a 4 out of 10. I was just like a 5 or a 6, just like blah. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't feeling good. I was just lethargic. And so I decided I was going to experiment and try a 30-day break from alcohol. And in 30 days, I lost about 5 kilos, about 13 pounds of visceral fat. I looked better. My skin got better. I slept better. I performed better. I auditioned to be a sports center anchor on ESPN. I got the job, and I thought, wow, this seems to be working. I'll keep on going. And I got to 50 days, and I realized that the caliber of friendships that I was creating was now higher, that I was attracting a far higher energy of person into my life by being alcohol free. I joined the gym up LA Fitness up on Hollywood Boulevard, where I was living at the time in Los Angeles. And I signed up and ran a half marathon, and it just opened up all these healthy kind of choices. And I haven't drunk since. 2010 was the last time I drank. And, it's been 12 years, and I've had a life with alcohol, a life without, and I can say definitively a life without is far superior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you recently, I think it was yesterday, and I sort of reacted to it, was you posted sort of your before and after pics, the transformation, and yeah, it's quite remarkable. Yeah, do you look back at sort of, because like the picture of you pre-2010, it's a very more heavier set man, and look kind of weathered. Can you sort of recognize that person anymore, or it's just like a distant memory?
Well, I know it's me. It doesn't look like me today, and it's not just the aging process. I see the alcohol in that version of me in photos of me. In fact, there was a photo that really was the catalyst for me thinking about this, and that was a photo I had with Jennifer Aniston, the Hollywood actress, former Friends star. I was in Park City, Utah, about a year before I stopped drinking, 2009, I think it was, and I drank a lot. Sundance Film Festival, there's lots of open bars, free parties, free food, glamorous people. It's an annual event. I would go there in my capacity as a journalist, and I got to interview Jennifer Aniston. And I remember I took a photo with Jennifer Aniston after I had interviewed her, and as the photographer was taking the photo, I sucked my gut in, because I knew that I literally was overweight, and so there were like fat rolls kind of spreading out over the belt that was holding up my pants. And I got this photo, and I was so self-conscious because I'm standing next to who could still be, and probably was at the time, arguably one of the more attractive women on the planet, certainly in terms of people know her, right? She's a famous Hollywood actress. And I just felt really uncomfortable about how I looked and how I was and how I was perceived. I remember I was hungover because I'd drunk excessively the night before. So I was sick most of the day. I remember interviewing her thinking, wow, I'm interviewing Jennifer Aniston, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh, I need something to drink. Not an alcoholic drink, water. And Park City, Utah, you're up in the mountains, so the altitude is very high, and that makes the hangovers even worse. In fact, I can show you the photo of me and Jennifer Aniston if you care to see it. You can see how puffy I am. Let me get it.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Yeah, so that was, when I looked at that photo and I thought about it, that was when I started to think, maybe I should change my habits here. Maybe it's time to actually cut back. I didn't think that I was going to quit. I just thought maybe I should have a better relationship to alcohol. And then it took probably another year before I actually quit, like I did in Austin, Texas. So here's the photo of me and Jennifer Aniston. And you can see there, I look completely different, don't I? I'm puffy in the face. I've got, I'm weathered, I'm tired looking. I'm literally sucking my photo in that my gut in that photo.
It's a sharp young man. There he is with one of the most famous women in Hollywood.
Yeah. Do you look at photos of you when you were drinking and think, what the heck? Actually, this is not me trying to name drop, by the way, but I just found another photo. Here's, Kiefer Sutherland, the actor, 24. Here's a photo of me drunk with Kiefer Sutherland on Sunset Boulevard in a bar called The Bar. It's called the Bronson Bar. That was my life, just going out, getting drunk, and Kiefer Sutherland was drunk that night as well. I don't think he drinks these days, but yeah.
Yeah, well, he was known to be a bit of a drinker himself. Kiefer Sutherland. But that would be your life, because if you're working in Hollywood, entertainment correspondent, I'm sure you'd be bumping into sort of celebrities like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. It's funny, because I went to the Playboy Mansion 3 times, and I remember the first time I went, there was open bar and I was drinking. So this was pre-2010. And admittedly, I had a great time. Like, I did have a good time. I drank a lot. And then I went back in 2017, I think it was, maybe 2016. And I hadn't been drinking for 6 or 7 years at that time. And I had an even more fabulous time being completely alcohol-free and drinking soda water, because I was present and I got to really notice it and enjoy it and observe people and, connect with people, as opposed to previously where I was just trying to down as many drinks as possible.
Absolutely. And I guess the question I have, because when you've quit drinking in 2010, and what you've sort of described is a lot of these sort of events, open bar, as you know. So I mean, someone like me, if when I was a drinker, an open bar, I would have just destroyed it. So were you ever sort of tempted? You ever sort of have the thoughts of like, even though like, oh, I'm seeing all these improvements in life, oh, well, maybe I could go back and just have a couple of drinks here and there, or did you just sort of think, nah?
No, I didn't. There's been a few occasions over the years where I've thought to myself, oh, I could really smash an ice cold beer right now. For example, I remember I was at the North Bondi Beach RSL, and the sun was going down. It was beautiful. I think it must have been December. I was there with some cousins and some friends, and I hadn't been drinking in many years. And when you go up and you order the beer from the barman, they get the glasses out of a refrigerator, so they cool the glasses before they pour the beer in. And I went up to the bar to get a round for my cousins and friends, and I was just going to get soda water. Anyway, the barman poured a couple of beers that were ordered, for one for my cousin, one for my friend. And I heard the beer crack, the sound of the beer going into the chilled glass. It was like, and as I was carrying the beers back in my soda water, I put it down. I kind of, before I handed the beer to my cousin, I kind of had a little sniff of it. And as I was looking out at this beautiful picturesque view, I should say, of Bondi Beach. The sun's going down. It's a hot summer's evening. Everyone's happy. It's close to Christmas time. Everyone's in a good mood. And that beer did smell pretty good, I have to say. I have to say I wasn't tempted to drink, but in that moment, I actually thought, oh, yeah, I remember really loving beer and drinking alcohol. And probably it would taste good if I had it. I wasn't tempted, but it did smell good, and the idea of drinking it did kind of appeal to me. Maybe I've had that feeling a few times over the years, but no, even if there's an open bar, because I don't look at the open bar as something more fun than just being alcohol free. People think that that people who don't drink must be really boring or dull and can't enjoy themselves, or are somehow depriving themselves of living life, like YOLO, like life is, life, you gotta live life, right? And they think that drinking alcohol means that you're living life and really having fun. Whereas I've manipulated my brain now to such an extent where being alcohol free and being present and conscious and having energy and clarity is the fun. That's the fun for me. That's the energy. That's the enjoyment out of life. Whereas drinking alcohol, what I refer to as attractively packaged poison, is stealing my fun. So that's how I kind of look at it now. So that's why I'm not tempted when there is an open bar, or when there's a wedding, or when there's a party, and when there's free alcohol, because I just don't look at that as being superior to not drinking alcohol.
Absolutely. Yeah. You've sort of put, like that being alcohol free, that's a way better sort of option for you than to just have, I guess, a couple of drinks, and whether it was a couple of drinks or whether it was 100 drinks. I mean, however you sort of went about it. I guess what I'd like to sort of ask is, because your big sort of brand is alcohol free. It's not sober. It's not sobriety. I'd like to sort of see, because that's even sort of something I've sort of tossed back and forth with in my sort of, I guess, because I went to rehab. I'm in recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And I mean, from what you described, it just sounded like, yeah, you like to have a bit of, get on the drink a bit, but it didn't sound it got sort of to maybe the levels that it got for me. Was there any sort of push to sort of say, you know what, I just want to identify as alcohol free instead of sober?
Yeah, I don't like the word sober because it implies that there's some kind of inherent problem with you, and I can't relate to that. I don't like the word. How do I phrase this? Let me think on this for a second. alcohol free to me feels like you are choosing something, right? You're choosing a lifestyle, whereas sober sounds to me like you are depriving yourself of something that you ordinarily might drink or might choose. So sober is like, oh, I'm not drinking. I can't drink because the ramifications are too big, too great. Whereas alcohol free to me sounds like and feels like I'm choosing this lifestyle that's alcohol free. So it's more like I'm not saying no to alcohol. I'm saying yes to an alcohol free lifestyle. That's how I position it in my brain. So sober doesn't work for me. I appreciate it works for millions of people around the world, and that's what helps them. For me, it doesn't work. Alcohol free is what works for me because I am choosing a lifestyle with all of these amazing things in it, as opposed to saying no to alcohol. Does that make sense? Did I explain that?
Yeah, it does. Because I've been having some conversations with a variety of different people, and to sort of look, because I guess my background in going to rehab, going to AA, I'm in recovery, all this sort of stuff, and then talking with other people who have a different idea and interpretation on how they want to sort of navigate and operate. If they are sort of non-drinkers now, that they wouldn't identify as sort of, oh, I'm sober now, or I'm, because that was, I think, when we had a conversation a while ago, you were sort of, you were like alcohol free, or just, and I'd sort of said, I'm even sort of getting to the point where maybe I'm just sort of say I just don't drink, or I'm a non-drinker, I guess. Because it kind of, like, it does kind of feel foreign, I guess. I'm 5 years down the track, and I had a sort of slip up in 2019, but I don't, it's kind of just like, you can, your identity can shift over time, I guess.
But even like the language, like you said, you had a slip up in 2019. I wouldn't even use the word slip up. I would just be like, oh, I drank in 2019. Like slip up to me has so much meaning and heaviness to it. So does recovery. Now, and I appreciate that my opinion is coming here from someone who has, I can't relate to being an alcoholic. I can't relate to like absolute devastation in life because of the choice to drink alcohol, right? So I want to just create the context for that. But I am a studier of language. I'm a studier of the meaning that we put to words. And the word recovery, I don't think is helping a lot of people. I don't think that's an effective word, because it implies that you had something to recover from. And in recovery feels to me like you're saying that you have an inherent natural problem. Whereas I would offer an alternative view, which is there's no inherent natural problem. You're just someone who drank too much for a time, and now you're not drinking alcohol. Now you're alcohol free. Now, for some people that might sound triggering. I'm not sure how it feels for you, but the word recovery, I don't know. I don't like it. The word sober, I don't like it. And not so much I don't like it. I just don't think it's effective. I don't think it serves people. The word slip up, was it a slip up, or did you just drink?
I mean, slip up is probably a very sort of small term, because it was a slip up for 6 months. So it was more than a slip up. It was a slipping down the fucking slide, I guess. But I totally get, and sort of what you're saying. And I'm certainly not I'm not sort of someone who's just like, oh, well, this is how it is. I got the blinders on. No one else could tell me what else. And even when sort of, I guess when I was in sort of a troubled spot, and I said it on another podcast with another guest, it's just like, if this is what keeps me sober, I'll just focus on that. And then sort of having these conversations with other people who've gone through, well, they've done sort of, there are other sort of ways to go about it. And I guess bringing you on would be a good thing to talk about, because like for me, the choices were to where I was fortunate enough to go to rehab or AA. And I guess when you got alcohol free, you're like, okay, I've done this, my life's going pretty good. When did the thought come, well, could I help other people become alcohol free as well. And then that leads into the programs that you offer to your services to people. How did it sort of come to that?
Yeah. I stopped drinking in 2010, like I said, and all of the evidence pointed to the fact that being alcohol free was way better, getting me such better results in life than drinking. And so I just kept going and going. I got to a year. I was back in Austin at the same South by Southwest festival. I went to a bar and ordered a Budweiser, and I went to put it to my mouth and have a celebratory drink after a year. And at the last moment, I put the beer down and I thought, wow, look what's happened in a year. Got this dream job. I'm in great shape. I feel better. I'm sleeping better. People are in awe of the fact that I'm not drinking. My romantic relationships have been better. My friendships are better. I'm just going to keep going. So I gave the Budweiser back to him and picked up a soda water and just continued along the way. And what happened is that I got to I was living in Hollywood, West Hollywood, Hollywood Hills area. And I was going to these big Hollywood Hills parties in around 2014, 2015. And I got to know a lot of people. And these parties were like hedonistic, right? Open bars and glamorous people. And I had a fabulous time being alcohol free. And people were amazed that I wasn't drinking. If it came out that I wasn't drinking, they'd be like, how are you jumping on tables and having fun and having a good time and not drinking? I don't get it. And I got this question repeatedly over the course of, a couple of years. And then in 2015, I just thought to myself, maybe I could create a little program just to help people stop drinking for 30 days. And so I just said, I'm just going to create a 30-day program. I'm going to call it the 30-day no alcohol challenge. I'll record 30 videos, make it a video a day that gets sent to each person and see what happens. I charged $67. I built a basic website, started promoting it on my personal Facebook page. And on Super Bowl Sunday, 2015, I think it was, I made my first sale. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good. Someone's paid me $67 to stop drinking for 30 days. That's cool. And then it just kind of grew from there. And then 2018, I started, I took it a lot more seriously. And then I added Zoom calls and coaches and coaching to the point now where it's, we have a 90-day stop drinking program or a 1 year long stop drinking program. It's mostly tailored now to, I guess, people who might call themselves high performers. It could be executives or entrepreneurs, mostly folks in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. My experience has been most people in their 20s don't really want to stop drinking, or if they do, they're not willing to stop because they just want to keep partying, and they don't have as much to lose as someone who's a little further on in life. He might have a wife or a husband or kids or finances or, people relying on them. And now the University of Washington and the University of Florida is now doing a joint study on our program, on our 90-day program, and the results of which hopefully will be published in the Journal of Applied Psychology and Harvard Business Review at some point in 2023, which is really exciting. And corporate America now, a lot of US companies are now coming to us, hiring us and putting our program through their wellness programs. And it's coincided really nicely with the worldwide trend, which you may have noticed, Will, as well, which is there are so many more alcohol-free choices out there, and people are becoming so much health conscious, so much more health conscious, and making increasing choices of being alcohol-free as opposed to drinking. So there's so many alcohol-free drinks on the market now. Millennials, I read a study recently, millennials have never drunk less. Alcohol actually really does have an image problem. It's got a branding problem at the moment, I think, because the numbers of people who are turning their back on it is increasing exponentially. I still think we're decades away, at least a couple decades away from society looking at alcohol through the same lenses we now look at cigarette smoking. But the trend is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, this is James Swanwick, and we're taking applications for our 90-day and 1-year stop drinking programs. Clients are mostly executives, entrepreneurs, and investors who have tried unsuccessfully and repeatedly to stop drinking but remain stuck in a frustrating cycle of stop-start, stop-start. Our programs are not AA, which has a reported 7% success rate. Our programs are not rehab, which has a reported 6% success rate. Our 90-day and 1-year programs involve a safe, fun, virtual community of high achievers with a process that boasts an incredible 92% success rate of clients reaching at least 90 consecutive days alcohol-free. We use the latest neuroscience and personal development processes to help rewire clients' brains around alcohol and minimize its importance in their lives. We will show you how to powerfully socialize with friends, family, and colleagues, what to say and how to say it so people don't mistakenly think that you're an alcoholic or have a problem, and how to eliminate the temptation of returning to constant drinking so you can finally break the stop-start cycle. To ensure client success, Project 90 can only accept 15 new clients each month. Some of those happy clients include John Keltner from California, who said, "I've lost 10 pounds." Susie Vaughan, a real estate broker in Tennessee, who said, "I've generated 20% more leads." Jessica Gaines-Jarbo from Kentucky, who says, "I've now got joy, focus, presence, and clarity." And Joe Worley from Michigan, who says, "My wife has the real Joe back." If you're an executive, entrepreneur, or investor who's sick of the stop-start cycle and the damaging effects alcohol has on your health, happiness, and family, and you're ready to regain confidence, become more present with your spouse and children, reduce stress, anxiety, and irritability, sleep better, increase focus and productivity, and feel better quickly, you're invited to apply to become a Project 90 client. Applicants can apply for an introductory interview by visiting alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. There's a link in the show notes which you can just click, but that link is alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. Application interviews are limited and are conducted on a first-come, first-served basis. If there are no remaining interview times available, wait a few weeks and try again. Let's get back to the show.
That's fun. Yeah, I think there was a podcast recently. I think it was Andrew Huberman who did a big one on alcohol, and I think it was, this premise was just, it doesn't matter how little you sort of drink, there's going to be complication. Like, there's no sort of positive effect. I know they used to sort of say, oh, a couple of glasses of red were good for your health, and then I guess it depends on where you get your information from. I mean, some people say yes, and then some people say, no. I mean, it could be like the doctors back in the 60s saying, oh yeah, smoke cigarettes, that's good for your health.
Yeah. That study you're referring to, the question really was, is light to moderate drinking harmful? Does a drink or two a night mess with the brain? Does it cause degeneration of neurons or nerve cells? And what this study came up with, and by the way, the title of the study was called Associations Between Alcohol Consumption and Gray and White Matter Volumes. The result was that if you are even just a 1 or 2 drinks a night drinker, okay, so even if you're just having 7 to 14 drinks per week, that is enough for there to be a loss of neurons in the neocortex and other brain regions. To sum that up, 7 drinks a week, 1 drink a night causes brain damage.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, a little bit of brain damage, but brain damage, right? So World Health Organization as well came out last year and said there is zero nutritional benefit to any amount of alcohol. The American Cancer Association has advised all people to have 0 alcohol if you are wanting to significantly reduce your chances of getting cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Those studies that came out that a drink a day is good for your heart health came out in the early 80s. They have been debunked now repeatedly with the benefit of time. We're now in 2022, so 40 years later, we now have far superior medical equipment, testing abilities. I mean, you just got to see all these cold cases that are getting solved now from improvements in DNA testing. We now have up to date 2022 medical devices that can effectively track the results of even just moderate drinking. And the results are out. No amount of alcohol is good for you. Zero. Zero. There is no nutritional benefit. And you can cling on to these 1980s studies all you want that it's good for heart health and convince yourself that it is good for you. But study after study after study shows there is zero nutritional health benefits from alcohol.
Yeah. And I mean, to sort of think about people who, will sort of light to moderate drinking. And, you know, when you I remember going to the doctor's office and so how many drinks are you having for a week? I don't know if anyone's actually honest when they answer that question. Just like, you know, a couple of drinks a night. And it's usually like a 6-pack, 12-pack, a bottle of wine, 2 bottles of wine. Oh, I forgot about that. Like there's also, like people, I think there's always a bit of hush with people being actually completely honest about how much they drink. And especially when you get to sort of the levels of drinking I was, you know, it was because there was no sort of pride. I guess it got to a point there was no pride in the amount of alcohol I was consuming because it was just, that's how much tolerance I built. So would you say, because you got 30-day program, a 90-day program, and then a year program, I guess from my journey, I needed to, the longer I went without it, the better. And so I'm sort of in 2.5 years now. Have you sort of found for some people, you know, sort of a 30-day sort of no drinking works, or do you think maybe 90 days is better, like to sort of see a real sort of significant change in someone's life?
For a real significant change in someone's life, I recommend at least 90 days. Now, 30 days is nice, right? It's a nice glimpse of what it feels like to be alcohol-free. And I definitely support dry July and sober October and all of those kind of things. However, it doesn't really move the needle long-term, because what happens is people go into those 30-day sober Octobers, dry Julys, you know, January, they're not going to drink all of January, dry January. They go into that feeling like they're depriving themselves of something that they would ordinarily choose. And then they get to day 30, day 31, whatever it is. And what do? They go and celebrate with a drink. So all they've really done is reinforced this notion that alcohol is fun and desirable, and that if you are not drinking alcohol, you are somehow depriving yourself of something fun and desirable. So again, if you're going into the 30 days to get a glimpse of what it feels like, to entertain the idea that you might wish to choose a mostly or entirely alcohol-free lifestyle long-term, then great, do 30 days, test it, see how it feels. But if you really want to make long-lasting change, and by that I mean changing your relationship to alcohol, either significantly reducing it in your life or eliminating it completely. In my experience of coaching about 20,000 people now all over the world, you really must get to at least 90 days alcohol-free to experience real change. And by real change, I mean losing weight, dropping your cholesterol levels, dropping your triglycerides, dropping your resting heart rate, reducing stress, reducing anxiety, losing weight, sleeping better, looking better, improved relationships, conscious communication, energy, focus, strategy, income, revenue generation. Like, you need those 90 days to really see the benefits. 30 days, good start. 90 days, wow, you can really see some profound changes in your life. And I know certainly from my programs, if I can get someone to 90 days alcohol free, they are sold. They are sold on an alcohol free lifestyle. Get them to 30 days, maybe. They want to go celebrate with a drink. But if I can get you to 90 days alcohol free at least, wow, now you are looking at things like nutrition, communication, and mindset, and things, practical things like meditation and wellness, and all kinds of beautiful things that can really help your life.
Yeah. So I guess, from that, which was, I mean, a big thing for me when I quit drinking, and then I just had so much time. And I guess there's just, your mind just can sort of, you're just thinking about drinking, or you're just, because, you know, you've got all this time. I mean, for me, I had all this time on my hands because that was my only hobby. Do you have sort of what is sort of your best tips for people who are quitting drinking and then, all right, we'll need to occupy my time sort of with something else to sort of, I guess keep your mind off it?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? I want to be clear that it doesn't always or often feel like all sunshine and rainbows when you first stop drinking. Because what you realize is that when you stop drinking, wow, now you've got to face yourself. Because the drinking has just been procrastinating and kicking the can down the road on some of the issues that deep down, either unconsciously or consciously, you know that you have to resolve. So that's why I say 90 days is so much more superior to 30 days, because now you've got time to be with yourself and to resolve a whole lot of issues that are going on in your life. I want to answer your question. I am going to answer your question, but I do want to be clear on this, that when you've got all of that free time, it can feel really uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Because because now you got to be with yourself. You got to be with your thoughts, as opposed to, oh, I got to be with my thoughts. Let me have a drink. Let me distract myself. Let me go out and get drunk. Let me go and party. Let me go and be a womanizer, or you know, whatever the opposite of that is for a woman, manizer. let me distract myself. Oh, there's parties going on. Great. There's events going on. Great. I'm just going to do lots of stuff and convince myself that everything's okay. But that's what alcohol does. You convince yourself that everything's okay. You're numbing yourself from actually being with yourself. So it can feel in the first 30 days like you're running through rose bushes and you're getting cut up by the thorns. But if you can get past that 30 days, you can get past the 60 days or 90 days, when you come out of the rose bushes and you're all bloodied and cut up, all of a sudden it's sunshine and rainbows. It feels like that. You know, there are angels and there are dolphins swimming and there are like violin playing goats, and like you go, wow, I finally arrived. I've woken up. Like, now I really see what life is and what it has to offer. To answer your initial question, what do you do with all of that time? The simple answer is anything else other than drinking, and that could be 1,000,001 different things. A lot of our clients like to go through their bucket list. A lot of our clients focus more on their health, so they'll join a gym or a workout kind of place. They'll join a hiking group on weekends. They'll throw dinner parties, alcohol-free dinner parties. They'll write down a list of the things that they've always wanted to do, but they've been putting off, and then they spend the time going into that. They'll start to expose themselves to other modalities like meditation or journaling. Like I said, getting out in nature, hiking, swimming. I mean, look, there's so many things that you can do in your life. There's so many things that you probably want to do, but you've been procrastinating, right? And I get change feels scary and change feels uncomfortable, but not as uncomfortable as staying in the pattern that you're in and feeling completely helpless and stuck for, in many cases, decades. It can be decades. So there's the pain of change, or there's the pain of staying the same. I'm always going to choose the pain of change, and it's only short-term pain anyway, and it's all just perception. It's not really pain. It's all in your mind. So there are a few ideas.
Yeah. It's like, it's either staying in the pain of familiar suffering, or stepping out into the fear of the unknown and what the possibility could come from that, which, you know, I don't know if you've ever, I don't know, out of the 20,000 people that you've worked with on this, has any one of them said, oh, I quit drinking alcohol and my life is just so much worse?
No, I haven't actually. I haven't had anyone say that. But I've had plenty of people trying to cling on to drinking, you know, even though they know it's so better, you know, being alcohol-free is so much better for them, they still cling on to wanting to have just a little one or have a drink on a special occasion. And I really challenge people on this notion that you just have a drink on a special occasion. Oh, I'll just drink on the weekends. Again, you're convincing yourself that drinking is fun and pleasurable. You're convincing yourself that a special occasion is synonymous with alcohol.
Yeah.
I call BS on that.
Mm-hmm.
Life is a special occasion. Being alcohol-free is the special occasion. Having clarity and focus and energy and joy and being connected to people is the special occasion. It's not drinking attractively packaged poison, which dehydrates you, irritates you, compromises your sleep, ruins your relationships. And people are listening to this now going, oh, I don't have a problem. I only drink 1 or 2 drinks a night. This is not for me. This is just for alcoholics. It's fine. I just have a drink or 2. Okay, but the studies show that 1 or 2 drinks a day or just 1 drink a night causes brain damage. And if you have 1 drink and you go to sleep, your sleep is compromised because of that drink, right? Because your body is now having to work to get rid of the toxins. In fact, let me say this. If you are going to drink, you're far better drinking for breakfast than you are anywhere close to bedtime, because at least then your body will have up to 16 hours to get rid of the toxins, versus when you drink close to bedtime, within a few hours of bedtime, what's your body doing? Well, you've just put it to work, because your liver's got to go to work to process it. And we don't want our body going to work when we're sleeping. We want our body repairing and restoring and relaxing. And if you wake up in the morning just a little bit irritated because you drank the night before, well, how does that show up? I'll show you how it shows up. You're just a little bit late for work. You're just a little bit more irritated with your wife or husband or your girlfriend or boyfriend or your kids. So now your relationships start to suffer. You're like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in your job, especially you got a sales job. So maybe you only make a little bit of commission as opposed to a lot of commission. You're slow, you're lethargic, you lose a bit of confidence because you put on a little bit of weight. So now if you're trying to generate a romantic relationships, you're lacking in confidence. All because you had that seemingly innocent drink the night before. So I say just get rid of it, get rid of the alcohol, and then confidence increases, sleep improves, complexion improves. Just a warning, you do get better looking when you stop drinking alcohol.
Yeah, I can attest to that, and so can you. Yeah, it's like, I think I sort of said on an episode, it was how people are sort of, and then you've sort of talked about it, where it's if I'm giving up drinking, I'm giving something up. I'm depriving myself of something. Whereas if you flip it and go, well, what are you gaining by not drinking? Like, what is their potential to sort of gain? And I mean, for me, it was everything. And for yourself, it sounds like, your life's just skyrocketed from when you put the bottle down. And yeah, it's a weird thing that people want to hold on to, I guess. I mean, I've had conversations, you could just drink in moderation. It's not a big deal. It's not all bad. And it's a weird thing that people desperately want to hold on to, that don't take my alcohol away from me.
It is weird and it isn't weird. It's weird because you and I have thought it through, and we can see what alcohol is, which is just poison. And you're right. It's weird that we choose to drink something that is so harmful to us. It's not weird because of cultural conditioning, because for decades, drinking alcohol has just been normalized, right? And we see it. We see it in today's marketing. We see it in advertisements. We see it at barbecues. We see it at dinner parties. We see it at restaurants. All of these smiling assassins is what I refer to them as. Smiling assassins are the waiters and the waitresses who greet you at the restaurant and say, hello, sir, can I get you started with a drink? It's your friends at the party that they're hosting who want to be great hosts, and they smile and they say, hey, Will, James, can I get you a beer? Do you want wine? What would you like? And they're trying to be great hosts, right? They're trying to be very pleasant, but they're offering us something that kills us. Admittedly, slowly over time, but it kills us nonetheless. Smiling assassins. It's the friends who meet you at the bar or the restaurant. Will, James, how you doing? Great to see you. Hey, can I get you a drink? The friend who wants to be really like a good mate, get you a drink.
Yeah.
Hey, can I get you a drink? Can I get you a drink? Smiling assassins. What the waiter and the waitress may as well be saying to you when you sit down at the restaurant and they say, hello, I'll be your waiter, waitress. Can I get you started with some drinks tonight? Would you like some wine, cocktails? What they may as well be saying is, hello, I'll be your waiter tonight. Can I get you started with some shoulder fat and some visceral fat? Hey, can I get you started with some regret tomorrow morning? Hey, welcome. So glad to have you here. Can I get you started with some irritation and some strained relationships tomorrow morning? Hey, can I get you started with 5 kilos of unwanted extra weight? And some, hey, how about a beautiful bottle? We do have a beautiful bottle from 1982 of A Mediocre Life. Would you like... seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Well, thanks for coming on, James. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. There's more than enough nuggets of wisdom there that you've gracefully shared with us. I might be putting you on the spot right now. It's something that we usually do to wrap up our show, is that if you're open to it, do you have a funny, silly story of James when he was a drinking man? An embarrassing tale from the drinking days of James Swanwick?
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind was I was at the Sundance Film Festival in Park City, Utah. This was a few years before I met Jennifer Aniston. Mm-hmm. But there were 2 Australian actors who were there that year. One of them was Naomi Watts, and the other one was Heath Ledger, the late Heath Ledger. And they were dating at the time. They were a couple. And I went to the bar and I ordered a couple of drinks for me and my friends. And Heath Ledger, who very famously played the Joker in the Batman movie, by the way, for those film buffs out there, Heath Ledger and Naomi Watts were sitting down on a sofa in the middle of this bar. Okay, it was kind of like, it wasn't actually cordoned off, like there wasn't a rope for celebrities, but there was this kind of sofa section in the middle of this bar, and they were sitting there. And there was a thoroughfare through this kind of sofa section between where the bar was and where my friends were. So I went to the bar to get some drinks. And I had a few drinks. I'm carrying it in 2 hands. I'm trying to juggle the drinks. I'm trying to sort of work my way through the crowd. And I could see my friends on the other side of Heath Ledger and Naomi Watts, who were sitting on the sofa. And I mistakenly thought there was this thoroughfare, but through the sofas. And as I was walking, I didn't see a little glass coffee table that was about knee height. And I went into it and I literally went and fell forward and went crashing into this coffee table. The drinks splattered onto the legs of Naomi Watts and Heath Ledger, made this huge sound, because there were only, by the way, it wasn't like a nightclub or anything. It was only like 75 people there. I think it was the premiere of a party. And I swear 75 people all turned to me and looked at me as I'm like at the feet of Naomi Watts and Heath Ledger with booze everywhere. And when you're like so embarrassed, you get up and you pretend like nothing happened, but that something happened. That's what I did. I kind of like jumped up and I went, and just very calmly walked over to my friends who were laughing hysterically. And I was mortified, but trying to pretend like it wasn't a big deal, which it was. So, that was my I guess James drunken drinking story, that the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah. And I'm guessing that you just avoided eye contact from Naomi Watts and Heath Ledger for the rest of the evening.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining us, James. If you want to plug anything before we wrap up, we'll put a plug all your sort of socials and then your website and then all the programs you do within the episode. But is there any final words of wisdom you want to leave us with?
If you'd like to learn more or listen into the podcast, it's the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle Podcast. I've got some information on our 30, 90, and 365-day programs at alcoholfreelifestyle.com. And I'm on Instagram at James Swanwick, as well as on TikTok as well. I do a lot of, I think almost all of my social media posting is about living an alcohol-free lifestyle. And like I said, that's at James Swanwick on Instagram and TikTok. And then the last thing I would just say is, even if you're just consider yourself a modest drinker, I would just invite you to take at least a 90-day break to really see the benefits of living an alcohol-free lifestyle. And like I said before, I think if you can get to 90 days with support, or without it, I think you'll turn the corner and you will really embrace living an alcohol-free lifestyle for many years and possibly decades to come.
Awesome. Great stuff. Thank you, James. This has been the Last Drinks podcast. I'm Will Hitchins, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little one-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.